What's up, everyone? Welcome back to A Line in the Stars. I'm Jordan, and we are back today with another episode of the Fanhome Enterprise Build Series, and one that I am super excited to bring to you. This, my friends, is going to be the flat panel resin window mod. I am super excited to bring this to you because I have been practicing for a month to get ready to actually apply this to my own model and to be able to bring this to you guys and show you how to be able to do it. I needed to understand how this process worked. I needed to understand exactly how to do it, repeat the process, and complete the process. Now, as a preface, I have done all of the panels that were taken off of the ship except for this one. And this is the very first panel that we put back onto the saucer. And we are going to today do the resin windows. We're going to go ahead and color them in. And then, my friends, we're going to reassemble the reflector, test the piece, show you what we're looking at, and then we're going to be putting our first panel back onto the superstructure, onto the frame, and we're going to start the reassembly process here soon. But before we move on, in the next episode, in the next modded episode, we're going to be coming in and explaining how the window pattern is going to be laid out and what pattern we're going to be following, and then the different sort of window styles and some of the things that we need to look at for our mod that we're doing that is going to be slightly different from the mod that Todd, that's funny, Marvel Phoenix is doing over at myenterprised.com. So we'll be kind of talking about that as we go along, but first we are going to be demonstrating how this is going to work, and I'm going to be bringing in a close-in camera, real close in, and I'm going to show you exactly how this works. But first, before we start, I'm going to show you the parts, tools, and equipment that you are going to need to get this mod done. Now, as a preface, I have to say, and a warning, do these mods at your own risk. Fanhome will not replace your parts if you are modding them and damage the pieces. There are a couple advantages that I have. Obviously, I'm doing this with the assistance of the person who created the mod in the first place, and I have some ability to pick up some things, so I'll talk about that here in a second. But do this at your own discretion and do it at your own risk. I did not tell you to do this. Todd did not tell you to do this. But if you want to enhance your ship, you might want to consider it. And so consider this an educational series on how to do this mod for your Enterprise D from Fanhome. So I'm going to go ahead and pull our pieces out of the way. And we're going to start with what we see on screen here. These are all of the base components that we are going to need to do our mod. Now, I have chosen the Mr. Resin, Premium Craft Resin. This is the extra thin, low viscosity, fast curing UV resin. Now, you can also use the Solarez, which is what Todd used in his Marvel Phoenix. And the Solarez and the Mr. Resin, there's really no big difference. Except for this. The Solarez are going to come in smaller packages, smaller containers that are not clear. So I've learned a lesson already, and I'll get to that here in just a moment, and for some of the warnings in using this equipment. But the Mr. Resin is about, this was $26 on Amazon. And this is going to be probably enough for a couple of enterprises if I choose to do them in whatever other projects I might have over time. This is going to be enough. Let's just say that I have done all of the windows on, I've done, 10 panels. And I believe it is, I think there are 79 total panels on the model. I could be wrong, but somewhere around that number. So I've done roughly, I don't even want to try to give a guess at percentage, but I've only used this much. So let's just say that, you're not going to need this entire thing. But The solar res does take a little bit longer. I was a little impatient, so I went ahead and took a gamble and got the Mr. Resin. And based on results, Mr. Resin is a completely acceptable one to do. Just get the non-yellowing, low viscosity, fast-curing UV LED compatible crystal clear. Pick this up, and I'm going to say here, this is a, I don't know, $2,000+ model I think we discussed over in the very beginning. Don't cheap out on your parts here. Do not cheap out on your chemicals. Do not cheap out on anything that you're doing with these mods. Do not mod your ship if you're not financially prepared to dip your toes into getting all of this. This little kit right here was around $50, but it's been worth it, and it's going to be providing me with many, many applications over time. So just do not cheap out. So we started with our resin. What I've also picked up is a set of these dispensing bottles. They came with like syringes, and the most important part is it came with, where is it? There we go. Our needles. So as you can see here, we have a dispensing needle. It fits across the top here, and we have all sorts of different styles of needles. Let me go ahead and pull up this is my kicker for my CA and kicker. And so this needle, along with this tip and the super fine needle end here, came in that kit as well. So this was about $9. I'll go ahead and throw a link to all of these things down in the description. It's not my channel, it's not my store, but once again, if you guys want to follow along and you want to use the equipment that I'm using, go ahead and you'll see all of the things that we're using here. Now, to couple with that, you're also going to need UV tape. And this is the tape that we are going to use to be blocking off the back of the panels from this side, and then we apply the resin from over here. This does not work on curved lines. So specifically, and I'm going to bring up the reason we're not doing the curved, I'm calling this the flat panel resin window model, or resin window mod, it's kind of a tough one to say, is because doing it on the curved panels, as you see here, this is not for my model. I am lucky. I'm going to go ahead and shout out to Pit Stain Hobbies. I'll go ahead and throw his link down in the description below, and you'll see his name here on the screen as well. He has been the lucky recipient of a few different pieces and builds of the Enterprise over time, and has actually tried to do the resin window mod, and has gotten some panels for me. So he's actually provided me, let me go ahead and pull this, and I would say that one piece of equipment, I'm just going to go ahead and cut in real quick. You're going to want to find panels that you can work on before you start working on your own ship. I have been lucky. I know Ian, I know Todd, I know these guys, and I was able to ask for, they offered them up basically, but I have several different hull panels here, different shapes, different sizes, different plates. I've been able to practice. I'm able to punch out all of the different pieces, I punch them out and then try again. And that's how I was able to perfect it. When I say that I've been practicing for a month, I literally mean that I've been working on these pieces for over a month, applying it, taking it off, applying it, taking it off. It takes practice, it takes time, and you do not want to try to be doing this with your own model. Now, if you are, I have no tips and tricks for you to basically protect your model from having damage happen, because what eventually happens over time is that the surface just gets dulled out. The tape, the multiple applications of the tape, it takes off some of that sheen. It winds up you're flashing it, it gets hot. Things happen. So, I was able to practice getting these windows in, but these hull panels, this broke, that broke. I was trying to demonstrate how the windows look, but it just kind of looked crappy, so I chose not to do it. That sort of thing. I tried gluing the windows in place because I don't have the reflectors back here, and you can kind of see the effect that I was trying to get is this is what the stock windows look like, right? You're just going to kind of see, if it's going to focus in a little bit, and I'll give it a second to try to do so, but you can see how the windows just stick out over the hull, and that's just not real. And so The whole idea here was really to try to simulate that, but I just chose to kind of abandon it, but I just brought it back. So anyway, try to find a stage or two on eBay or forums or something. Reach out to somebody you know who has one of these models and try to find some extra hull panel sections. Do not attempt to do this with your model until you are ready to go. And I mean that. Like, I spent an entire month practicing getting this ready to go. And I am only just now super confident after doing the previous 9 panels. And so find yourself some of these. Find yourself some flat ones. Find yourself one of the die cast pieces, because applying the resin to the die cast is a little bit different than the plastic, because we have these built-in channels, and so you have to avoid cupping. And we'll get into that when we get into some more of our panels going forward in the future, because we're going to be doing lessons on this every single time we're going to be building our model going forward. So look on eBay, talk to a friend, get onto a forum, whatever you can, try to find pieces. And I can tell you, I've been working on this curved line, this curved section of the neck, and the entire battle section. There's not very many flat lines. There's a lot of acrylic pieces that fit back behind here that I'm trying to avoid using. This tape, and this is where all this comes from, this tape does not work on curved surfaces. That is the biggest thing to know. It is not pliable. It does not want to stretch. Now, what you can use is the Tamiya curved line tape, and I'm getting better, but I can tell you that it is a challenge. And so we're only going to be doing this for the flat panels for the foreseeable future. As soon as I am ready, I'm going to keep practicing. As soon as I am ready, I will go ahead and we'll do the mod for the curved neck pieces as well. It is possible. I've gotten a couple good ones over time, but find yourself some panels. Do not practice on your own model. The UV tape. This was like a 3-pack for around $8-9. Once again, I'll throw the link in the description. You're going to want to pick up a high-powered UV flashlight, and you're going to want to get a pair of glasses to go along with it. I'm going to warn you guys for this episode. Normally, I wouldn't show this on camera as it is going to be very bright, but for the first demonstration, I'm going to be flashing this on screen. If for whatever reason you have a sensitivity to bright lights or have prone to seizures or what have you, please look away from the screen. I will warn you when that comes up, but I will be showing you, because one of the most important parts of this process is how you flash your panels and how long you're flashing your panels for, and it's the whole process. And I'm going to show you top to bottom for a couple of these strips to be able to really explain the whole process. So you're going to need to find yourself a high-powered UV flashlight with glasses. This is the Autofire. I believe the pair of these was like around $15-16. Once again, I'll go ahead and throw that into the description. And then from there, you're going to need standard safety equipment. I would recommend making sure you put down, you're going to need a piece of paper towel for checking, like for bubbles and accuracy. You're going to want a flashlight, and we'll show you here in a little bit what that is. You're going to want some paper towel. You're going to want to wear gloves. Now, I've gotten pretty comfortable over time not wearing gloves, but for the sake of this, I will be wearing gloves. The resin is not friendly stuff. You don't really want to get it on your skin, and I'm fairly comfortable these days without having to wear the gloves. But until you're comfortable, I recommend wearing gloves. And for the sake of demonstration today, I will be. And then finally, as crazy as this sounds, you're going to need to find something to pick out the bubbles. So when we pour the resin into the window cavities themselves, bubbles are going to form, and there's nothing you can do about it. And what you're going to need to find is some sort of picker. Like, it can be a toothpick. I find the toothpicks tend to get clogged up with the resin pretty quick, so you're going to be going through a lot of toothpicks if you're doing a lot of panels. You can use Todd, what he used, Marvel Phoenix, what he used was the Dollar Tree, like dental picks, the very end, what you use for your teeth, like picking your teeth. I am using a zit popper. As crazy as it sounds. The reason I like using this is it's got an incredibly fine point. It is incredibly sharp. and I'm able to pop my bubbles very quickly and effectively. The downside to this, however, is if you scratch the inside of the UV film with this, you really, really want to avoid it. And one of the reasons I actually am going to be wearing gloves is you want to try to avoid getting any fingerprints on the inside of the UV film, because what can happen is that will transfer over onto the window front if that fingerprint happens to be over one of those spots, and then you'll have a fingerprint over the window, which is really funny. So you can also scrape really too hard and scrape the inside surface of the UV tape, which you really, 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 really want to avoid. And so until you're comfortable with a toothpick, I recommend starting with a toothpick and then moving on to the dental stick. And then if you have something like this just happened to be in a zit, like you'd recognize this is like the loop for popping zits. It's awful, but I had one and it worked, and it works gloriously, and I'm used to using it. Now, if you have good eyesight, you might be able to see it. If you have a magnifying glass, you might want to use one of those. I will be using my Yato Sun help seeing eyes, whatever these are, model making glasses. I do wear glasses, but not like on a regular basis, not like I have to wear them all the time, but for certain applications I do. These help a lot more than that does, and I have 4 LEDs, so it lights up really bright. So while we're working on it, I just want to warn anybody with any sort of photosensitivity issues. There are going to be some bright lights on the screen today, as it is part of how I do this, and for me to demonstrate how I'm building these, I need to be able to show you guys properly how it works. So let's go ahead and get started, and this is going to be pretty cool. So let me go ahead and cut real fast so I can bring my close-in camera, or bring my boom arm in, and basically we're going to be getting a lot closer to my work mat so you guys can see exactly what I'm doing. We'll be right back. Alright, so I got this camera in super close. We're probably about 6 inches away from, probably about 6 inches away. Yeah. I was able to figure out a way of getting one of my boom arms to get really close, and I can see what's going on the screen and actually see what's going on in front of me right now. So it kind of works out. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to grab our UV tape, and I'm going to go ahead and off screen, being that I can't really show you guys much, I'm going to pull off a section of our UV tape. Once again, making sure to not get any fingerprints on it. Okay, now what we're going to do is I'm going to go ahead and work on Captain Picard's quarters. And so if you guys don't know, the big windows at the very front of the ship, I believe it's deck 8 or deck 7, I can't remember which deck he lives on, but the windows right at the very front of the ship, those are the captain's quarters. They're not able to show the big windows on screen, but basically the big windows in the front, and the reason they're not able to show them on screen was just because the budget didn't allow for them to create a special set just for Captain Picard, but he does have bigger windows than everyone else on the ship. At least on the top half of the ship. The windows in the lower half of the saucer section are a little bit bigger. So what you're going to do is you're going to set the resin tape, or the UV resin tape, right over the top, and you're just going to lightly push down right over the windows where you want to go. Now, I recognize that the UV light is kind of blinding there, so I'm going to go ahead and show that real quick, block it off there. So we have our tape put down. So now I'm going to go ahead and flip that over, go ahead and uncover my light. I saw what was going on camera, and I'm like, oh, goodness me. All right, so a couple of basics when it comes to the nozzle. You're going to want to get a small gauge curved nozzle for your bottle. I recommend using this application because it tends to get right into the windows, right where you want it to go, and I was able to control the flow real nice. So what you're going to want to do is, the practice is we're going to start at the back, and I'm going to roll forward, back forward, so on and so forth. And when we do that, I'm going to keep even pressure on, and I'm going to try to create a little ball here at the very end with the resin. Now I'm going to start the ball at the very beginning, and I'm going to dab it off here at the very end of my towel. So I'm going to start a ball of resin just like this. Okay, I'm going to tap it off. Now I'm going to keep that same pressure on. I'm going to go ahead and get it right into the window slot. Okay, move over to the next one. And I'm keeping even pressure on so that I'm not allowing any excess air bubbles to be created. And you see the resin settling down into the grooves. It's exactly what you're wanting it to do. Be very gentle and deliberate with your movements. Don't rush. Take your time. Do one section at a time. Even if you have tape covering this entire area, do one section at a time. Okay, so now it's going to be hard to translate, and I'm hoping that I might be able to see a little bit here before. Can you pick any of it up on screen? I don't know. I don't think so. But there are some bubbles inside of there. So I'm going to go ahead and pick them out, and hopefully I don't blind you guys too much. I'm going to bring this a little bit closer to me. And they tend to form in the corners of your windows. And what I'm doing is I'm just very lightly moving the resin. Try to avoid getting any of that excess resin where you don't want it to be right now. And I'm just moving the resin around near the bubble. I'm not actually trying to get the bubble, I'm trying to move the resin and get it to move on its own. So now that one's clear. And you're just going to kind of push the area around the bubble. Not actually touching anything. Eventually just kind of pull it away from where it's at. But once it gets moving, you should be able to get it out from its little... Once it gets moving, basically, you're able to... There it goes. You're able to kind of pull it away. And just pull it away somewhere else. I like to flick it out. Don't like flick it, but I like to basically get it out over the edge. Like the inside of the panels can be really messy, and that's totally fine. I just saw a bubble that popped up. The outside of the panels can be really messy, and I think for sake of posterity, we're going to be very careful here because I don't want to get too much resin down into this channel. I'm going to work on that next one, on that lower area next. Okay. You just want to get the bubbles moving. Slide them out of the resin and then just pop them because they will try to get right back into there. As long as you don't have any sunlight, and the warning I have is don't leave your UV resin sitting on your workbench if it's near a window and it's a sunny day, or if it's just daytime. I figured that one out the hard way. The entire bottle of resin, before I even had a chance to use it, hardened up. So, and I'm just kind of picking. I apologize. I'm going to try maybe pull the camera a little bit closer. See if I can try not to do that too much, but I can't really see. And this is such an important whole section. I'm going to go ahead and pick these bubbles out real quick, and I'll be right back. Okay, so now all the bubbles have been picked out. And one of the things that I like to do before I go on to flashing our piece, and we're going to switch the camera angles, I like to kind of take the piece and just move it a little bit. Just a little bit. And what you can find is sometimes bubbles pop up out of corners that you weren't expecting. The most important thing that we're doing here is eliminating bubbles from inside of these window cavities. We do not want anything but crystal clear. We will go back and worry about light diffusing later, but it is so important for you to make sure that all the bubbles are taken care of. You may be tempted to go super thin with your resin here. Don't. You may be inclined to go super thick with your resin. Don't. And I'm realizing that one of these windows, I'm going to have to do this bottom row. Because oh goodness me, look at that. The resin just went ahead and just flowed right into these bottom windows. So I'm going to go ahead and fill this up here as well. Now, UV resin expands when you are curing it. So that is the thing to remember. You don't want to go too thick. Going too thick will create bubbles and your reflector panels will not fit properly. So let's take care of this big bubble that you guys can probably see on screen. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to grab it, pop it. All right. I wasn't expecting to go ahead and do this next row, so I'm going to go ahead and get all the bubbles out of here. And then when we come back, we're going to be at the bigger, wider out camera angle, and we will be ready to do our flashing off. We'll be right back. All right, so now all the bubbles are out of our section. This is a little bit more than I normally would do. The thing that you have to know is that you're not really under a time limit. You just don't expose this to any UV. Now, let's go ahead and get started, and here is your warning. If you were really sensitive to bright flashing lights, I recommend looking away. Okay, so what we're going to be doing is I'm going to flash the outside of this, and this is very important that if you're going to follow along, follow the pattern of flashing that I'm going to do. I do this for every single pattern, for every single window panel, and you're going to need to do the same thing as well. The pattern is we're going to flash for 3 seconds on the outside, and then I'm going to turn the panel over, flash for 3 seconds on the outside of that, and then I'm going to wait for 15 seconds. Then I'm going to repeat that same process of flashing the inside for 3 seconds, the outside for 3 seconds, and then I'm going to wait for 15 seconds. Then from there, I'm going to do a concentrated flash only on the inside for 30 seconds. Once that's done, I'm going to set down my flashlight and I'm going to quickly pull my tape. All of this has to happen in this proper sequence. The reason why we flash for 3 seconds, and then wait is we're trying to avoid overheating the resin, which in turn can melt the plastic of your parts. And we need to set it properly, and we need to get it setting properly initially. So here is your warning for bright light sensitivity, and I would recommend looking away because this is kind of bright, but I do recommend watch how I move my flashlight. Here we go. 3 seconds. I'm going to go off camera for this one. 3 seconds. I'm going to sit and wait. "15 seconds. Here we go. Moving the flashlight in little circles. Not concentrating on one specific spot. Now I'm going to wait 15 seconds. Now I'm going to give a 30-second concentrated blast, moving in slight little circles at about 8 to 12 inches away. Here we go. Make sure you're wearing glasses while you're doing this. Do not look directly at it if you can avoid it. I'm just moving in tiny little circles around the area where I want resined. 30 seconds. You're done. Now, what you need to do is I'm going to grab that same poker that I started with, and I'm going to tap this to make sure it's set. It's hard as plastic, as resin. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to peel my UV resin tape, and I'm going to peel it at a sharp 90 degree. Don't go super fast, but pull at a 90 degree. You'll see a little bit of UV resin tape kind of peel up from time to time. Totally normal. And sometimes little pieces of it, depending, like this is might be a little bit lower quality. So I got little pieces of the UV resin tape stuck there real quick. So I'm going to, what I found is to use one of my silicone brushes here. And I like to just kind of push while it's still a little warm. Don't let it set. Just push it out of the way. You don't need to worry about hurting the resin. It's in place. It's done. It's done its thing. Now Captain Picard has a place to sleep because his resin windows are firmly put in place and gloriously done. Yeah, I'm pretty pleased with that. Oh, it's a little nerve-wracking. Like, I mean, I've done this a bunch of times now, and it's still kind of nerve-wracking, you know, like getting into the panels. So, all right. There is our resin window. I'm going to go ahead and take care of basically getting all the rest of these windows in this panel taken care of, and then we're going to come back and review the work before we reinstall our first panel back into the saucer section frame. Super cool. We'll be right back. All right, so I am done with this one panel, and I gotta say, don't rush this. It's going to take you some time. Each panel is roughly going to take you half hour to 45 minutes to get done and done properly. And this did not go without any issues. This particular window, for whatever reason, when I was trying to get it done, poured out. And it got resin all over here. And so I had to stop quick in emergency status, get some IPA on a Q-tip, and quickly wipe the stuff off, and then use the other side of the Q-tip and wipe that off, and then a little bit IPA and then wipe it off, a little bit IPA, wipe it off. You don't want to go too hard and take down some of the paint. I know I took a little bit of the color off. It's going to be a little bit of a weird whole panel section. There's nothing I can do about it. But that being said, however, as you can see here, all of our windows are nice and crystal clear. They're a little bit, there's a couple of them that are probably a little bit dirty just from the whole process of doing it. I will take some Windex, as crazy it is, and just kind of like very light amount of Windex and just kind of rub it along the outside here. I think I'm going to give it a try and see, but maybe even just a little bit of IPA, or I may even just leave it because we're about to do things with this window. So that is the flat panel UV resin mod. Now, what we're going to do and what we're going to get into in the next episode is the window patterns, how we're going to do light diffusion, and how we're going to do light blocking for our escape pods. But for the sake of getting this installed into our whole panel for the finish of this episode, I'm going to go ahead and off screen get these windows taken care of properly, and when we come back, I'm going to have the whole section or the frame set right here, and we're going to get ready to put our piece in, and you'll see what we look like when we have a nice and tested and ready to go whole panel section ready for reinstallation. So we will be back. All right, I got everything reassembled. I went ahead and took care of all of my window painting, which we will get into in the next episode when we talk about the window patterns and light blocking. And I want to go ahead and just get that done because I didn't want to like spoil what was going to be for the next mod, which is pretty cool actually. This is where we are kind of going to be, well, not kind of, this is where we are going to be deviating from Marvel Phoenix's mod, and this is where the mod becomes mine, my version of the resin window mod. So I have painted up my windows, I've tested all my lights, we're all good to go. So let's go ahead and review what we've done. As you can see here, we have all of our windows all laid in. I went ahead and painted and light blocked, so there's a combination behind most of these dark windows because this is a very, very bright piece. Behind these dark windows, there is 3 coats of flat black Tamiya paint, the XF1. And then I also put, electrical tape back behind there as well for extra light blocking, because where the LEDs hit behind in these light areas can be very, very, very bright. And then, for a little bit of flair, I'm going to be copying Todd on what he did on his, and he just kind of took a couple of windows here and there, and different colors. So we have turquoise here, and we have kind of like a yellowy, kind of like a neon yellow color there. And one of the things too that we got during this whole process, and you'll see in the next episode when we start lighting up some of our panels, you'll see how, the way that I've painted these, it gives it the impression that, there are several different styles of windows. There are several different styles of, like people have, different lighting preferences, and you have the ability in your quarters to be able to adjust your lighting. And so we're going to be adding a little bit of flair here and there. And I got a cool storytelling thing to get to tell you guys or show you guys when we get there. I've discussed this, and I've got a cool little my own personal mod that I want to do to the Enterprise later on. So when we get there, we'll get there. I don't even have the whole panel yet, and I think it's going to be a little while before we get there. But overall, though, this one turned out okay. What the funny thing is for the demonstration here, this is actually not my best work. Some of my other whole panels that I've done are much better than this one. I don't know what it was, but I really did struggle getting this one done. I think it's been a couple days since I've done it. That actually, or I've done just a lot of it. And for whatever reason, I had some resin spill out, so I had to stop and clean up my parts. It took a little bit. I've let this dry overnight. I've let it do its thing, and then I kind of reassembled all the, the reflectors and the LEDs, and we're all ready to go to reassemble. So that's what we're going to go ahead and do right now, and then while we're doing that, we're going to talk about what's coming up next. So we're going to bring back an old friend, one we haven't seen in a little bit. And here is our saucer section. So I'm actually going to turn this towards me and flip this upside down. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and do the proper assembly here for this first panel. So let me grab my PH1 and let me go ahead and pull up my enterprised.com. Okay, so first up, we're only going to be installing this one hull panel because I don't want to go any further because we're going to be talking about light blocking in the next episode. And one thing I'm seeing here is this has been sitting out for a little bit, so I'm also going to get this dusted off before we move too much further. I need to contemplate not displaying these and just kind of keeping them sealed up a little bit because I don't want too much dust to get in there. I digress. So first thing we're going to do, however, before we start installing our hull panels, and the reason I want to do that is, like I said, we're going to be installing sequentially all of our panels, but in order to do that, we are going to get caught up in the next episode with where we were at before I decided to stop and mod the model. But what I want to do is basically do this one just to kind of show you what it's like. I want to get this one back in place, but I don't want to spill too much because we're going to be doing a lot of work on these whole sections as we go forward. So I'm going to go ahead and remove this I think it's actually a BP screw, and I'm going to go ahead and remove this LED. We're going to leave the other one, I say, in place. Wow, you just wanted to come out of there, didn't you? I'm not taping these back down into place. I don't know if that's a mistake or not, but it is what we're doing. So, first thing first, we are going to take this piece. Well, we're just going to do that. I'm going to go ahead and reinstall those after we're done. I'm going to go ahead and grab this LED set, and I'm going to pull this through and back down underneath these screw points right here. And I'm going to do that for both of these. Okay. The other LED is meant to be left out, but you want it to go under that channel as well. Okay, just like so. And just like so. Okay, so we got that routed up. Now what we're going to do, somehow, I'm going to separate these two wires out of the way. They are just in the way. And I'm going to separate away my wire. I'm going to go ahead and just plug this back into place, and we'll be right back. Alright, so perfect. Now we got both of our pieces, both of our LEDs put in place. We have these cables routed in their proper spots. Let's go ahead and pull up on the piece, and I realized I remember why I taped those into place. I'm just trying to avoid it because I know as soon as I tighten these two screws down, then it's going to solve this issue. So what I'm going to be doing is pulling back on these LED wires just a little bit, and I'm going to go back like this because they need to surround this center post right here. Perfect. And very carefully pull up. And, oh, we're going to leave these LEDs out this way. That's correct. That goes through there. Pull that LED out real fast. And there we are. Now we're just going to simply try to pull up and then once I have it secured in place, I'm going to grab two DM screws, or is this DP? These are DPs. We're going to go ahead and tighten this section down. Once you have one in, you're all set. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to carefully push back our LEDs. And this one here needs to come back and up and through this way. And when you get this done, you want to try to make sure that the LED is not going to be blocking where the next hull panel is going to be coming into place, because this will prevent you from having proper fitment. So now, to complete the rest of this step, I'm just going to make sure that everything is all put in place. We are now going to turn our whole section over, or saucer over. Now, we're going to grab each one of our free LEDs. I'm just very carefully setting that down. And what we're going to do is it's going to come up right through here. So I'm going to use my pair of tweezers. Pull that up through here. And then you're going to turn it and then get it so you can slide the LED into place right here. And then you want to tuck your wire just like that. You're going to repeat the same process on the other side. So up through the panel right here. Turn it. Tuck it into the LED slot. And you'll know when it goes, when it sets in there properly. There we are. I'm going to pull the wire down and then have it kind of bend just like so. And now we're going to begin to do our cable management by very lightly and very carefully pulling back here. And then I'm just going to grab one piece of Tamiya just tape. Just regular masking tape. I don't want electrical tape here. I want soft tape that I can remove very easily. But what I want to do is prevent all of my wires and all of my LEDs from being pulled. So, just going to gather and bundle them up, just like so. And there we go, my friends. As I say, the LED over here is kind of needing the next hull panels to go in order to stay in place. I remember that. So, as I get that tucked into place. So there we are. We've begun reassembly of our saucer section with our flat panel resin windows. My friends, this has been a haul learning how to do this, but it has been incredibly rewarding, and I think the effect that we're going to get is going to be so much better than what we got out of the stock variations. In the next episode, I am going to be moving on and opening up stage number 25 because I'm going to be demonstrating how we do our resin windows, painting, and light blocking, and then we're going to go in and then do assembly and show you how we're going to be doing light blocking in between each one of our whole panel sections. Oh, you guys, I'm super excited about bringing that one to you. I'm ready to go for all of that. I've done all my practice. I'm ready to start releasing these mods on a regular basis, and then we're going to start getting back into our regular build here soon. So, that's what I got for you today, and I just want to say thank you. I know that there was a million things y'all could have done today. Instead, you spent a couple minutes with me, watching me mod an extraordinarily expensive model and taking a risk with it. And I just want to say thank you because that's pretty damn cool. If you guys have any questions, comments, tips, tricks, please leave them down below. If you'd like to support the channel, please like and subscribe. And my friends, until we see each other again, I hope you all have a wonderful day in this beautiful world wherever you happen to be. And just remember to always live long and prosper.